I never planned to fall for my best friend's mom. If that stray cat had not gotten stuck in her basement, none of this would have started. I would not still hear her voice in my head, soft and shaking, asking a question that changed everything. "You came just for me? My name is Daniel. I am 24 years old, and I live in a small apartment just outside Portland, Oregon. The place is nothing special. The floors creak when I walk, the fridge hums like it is angry at the world, and my only window looks out at a cracked parking lot with faded white lines. I work as a freelance coder, building websites for small businesses that want something cheap and fast. It is not exciting, but it pays the bills and lets me work in sweatpants with a mug of coffee next to my laptop. Most days, it is just me, my screen, and the quiet. After my last girlfriend left a year ago, I stopped arguing with the quiet. She told me I was too comfortable being alone. She was not wrong. I went out less, stayed in more, and let my weekends turn into cold pizza, beer, and video games. I had friends, but most of them were busy with their own lives. Except Liam. Liam has been my best friend since college. He is the kind of guy who makes friends without trying. He once showed up at my place at 2 in the morning, just to help me move a couch I bought from a stranger online. We do not see each other as much now because of work, but we still text, send dumb memes, and talk trash about games we never finish. That evening, I was sitting on my couch eating the last slice of pizza that had been in the box all day. The sun was low, filling my apartment with that soft orange October light. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick it up. "Hello," I said, wiping my fingers on a napkin. "Daniel, it's Harper, Liam's mom." Her voice was warm but tight, like she was holding something back. I sat up straighter. I had not spoken to her in a long time. Back in college, I used to crash at their house after late study nights. She would leave food out and tell me to make myself at home. "Hey, Miss Harper," I said. "Everything okay?" She let out a breath that sounded close to a laugh. "Not exactly. There's something in the basement. I think it's a stray cat. It's been meowing for hours. Liam said you're good with animals." I almost smiled at that. I had once saved a kitten stuck in a fence when I was a kid. I had forgotten all about it. "I called animal control," she continued, her voice softer now. "They won't come until tomorrow. I don't want to leave it down there all night." It sounds scared. Something about the way she said scared hit me in the chest. I looked around my quiet apartment. The empty pizza box, the silent screen. "I can come by," I said. "Give me 20 minutes. "Oh, thank you, Daniel," she said, and I could hear the relief in her voice. I grabbed a flashlight, a pair of gloves, and an old pet carrier from my closet. The drive to her house felt familiar. Neat lawns, tall trees, porch lights glowing in the early dark. I had been there 100 times, but never when Liam was not home. Before I could knock, the door opened. Harper stood there in the warm hallway light. She wore a loose gray hoodie and jeans, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. There was a faint streak of flour on her cheek like she'd been baking. Her eyes looked tired, but when they met mine, they softened. "Daniel," she said, "you're a lifesaver." "It's this way." The basement smelled like damp concrete and old boxes. A weak yellow bulb hung from the ceiling. The meowing grew louder, sharp, and panicked. "Over there," she said, pointing to a stack of boxes near the wall. She handed me a towel with hands that trembled just a little. I crouched down and swept my flashlight across the floor. 2 small eyes flashed back at me. A gray cat was tangled in extension cords, one leg trapped. Every time it moved, it cried out. "Hey, buddy," I said softly, "we'll get you out." It took time. The cat hissed and swiped, but I stayed calm. I talked to it the whole time. When I finally slipped the cord free and wrapped it in the towel, the cat went still in my arms. "We're good," I said, turning to Harper. Her face in the dim light looked softer somehow. Younger. She let out a shaky breath. Upstairs, I released the cat near the back door. It ran off into the dark yard. For a moment, we just stood there, side by side, listening to the night. In the kitchen, she poured us water. The room smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Cookie dough sat on the counter. "You showed up fast," she said, watching me closely. "You didn't even ask many questions." I shrugged. "You sounded like you needed help." She held her glass tighter. Then she asked it, quietly, almost unsure. "You came just for me?" The question hung between us, heavy and soft all at once. I looked at her and realized, for the first time, that she was not just my best friend's mom standing in her kitchen. "I came because you called," I said, "and because you sounded like you needed someone." Something changed in her expression. Her shoulders relaxed, just a little. That was the moment everything started to shift, even if I did not fully understand it yet. After that night, I told myself it was a one-time thing. A cat, a basement, a moment that felt bigger than it was because it came out of nowhere. I went back to my routines. Wake up, coffee, code, repeat. But the quiet in my apartment felt different now. Less peaceful. More empty. I kept thinking about her kitchen. The smell of cinnamon. The way she said my name like it mattered. The question she asked, and the way it landed in my chest. "You came just for me?" A few days passed. I tried not to overthink it. On Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. "Harper. Just wanted to say thank you again. I think the cat is okay." I saw him near the fence this morning. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Me. That's good to hear. Glad he's all right. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. "Harper. If you're ever nearby, I owe you cookies. The real baked kind, not the apology kind." I smiled at my screen like an idiot. Me. I won't say no to that. I did not go over that day. Or the next. I told myself I was being smart. Giving space, not blurring lines that should stay sharp. Then, on Sunday evening, my sink started leaking. Just a slow drip, but it echoed through my apartment like a reminder. Without thinking too much, I grabbed my keys and drove. When I knocked, she opened the door with surprise written all over her face. "Daniel," she said. "Hi." "Hey," I said, suddenly aware that I did not have a real excuse ready. I was in the area. She smiled, stepped aside, and let me in. The house felt warm and lived in. Like it always had, but now I noticed different things. Family photos on the wall. Liam at different ages. Harper younger, smiling wide in pictures taken before life had worn her down. She brought out a plate of cookies, still warm. "You really came," she said, amused. "I'm weak to baked goods," I said. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one from the other night. The conversation started easy. Work, weather, Liam's job in the city. But there were pauses now. Small ones, loaded ones. "You don't seem like someone who enjoys being alone," she said after a while. "I thought I did," I said. "Turns out, I just got used to it." She nodded, like she understood too well. "I used to be surrounded by noise," she said. "Now the house is quiet most of the time. I tell myself I like it. Some days I do, some days I don't." The honesty in her voice surprised me. It felt like she was letting me see something private. "You don't seem as alone as you think," I said. She looked at me then, really looked. There was a softness there that made my chest tighten again. That night turned into another visit a few days later. Then another. Sometimes it was something small. A stuck drawer. A light that would not turn on. Once, she texted me a picture of a broken shelf with a sad face emoji. I showed up with tools and no real idea what I was doing. She laughed when the shelf nearly fell on me. The sound filled the room and stayed with me long after I left. Little by little, the space between us shrank. Not physically at first. Emotionally. We talked more. About things that mattered. About her divorce. About my ex. About fear and comfort and the way time sneaks up on you. One night, we sat on the back porch under the soft glow of string lights. The air was cool. Crickets filled the silence between our words. "Liam doesn't know you come by this often," she said quietly. "I know. I said. If that's a problem, I can stop. She shook her head slowly. I didn't say that. Her hand rested on the arm of her chair. Mine was inches away. I was painfully aware of it. I just want to be careful, she added. For him. For you. For you too, I said. She smiled at that, but there was something nervous under it. Daniel, she said, choosing her words, I don't want you getting hurt. I'm already here, I said. I think that ship sailed. She laughed softly, then looked down at her hands. You make me feel less invisible, she said. And that scares me. The honesty in her voice hit harder than anything else she had said. I wanted to reach out, to touch her hand. I did not yet. I don't know where this goes, I said, but I know I don't want to pretend it's nothing. She looked at me then, eyes searching my face. Slow, she said. We go slow. I can do slow, I said, as long as it's real. She nodded. The porch light hummed above us. The night wrapped around the house like a secret. When I left, she hugged me. Just a brief hug, but her arms lingered a second longer than they needed to. As I drove home, my heart felt too full for my chest. I knew we were crossing into something dangerous, something complicated. And I also knew I was not turning back. After we agreed to go slow, everything somehow felt faster. We did not say it out loud, but there was a shift. Our texts changed first. Fewer jokes, more check-ins. She would ask how my day was going. I would ask if she had eaten. Small things that did not sound important, but felt that way. I caught myself looking at my phone more than my screen. Waiting. Every buzz made my heart jump. One Tuesday night, she texted me just one word. Harper, are you busy? I stared at it for a second, then typed back. Me. Not really. What's up? There was a pause longer than usual. Harper, I had a long day. Would you want to come sit for a bit? No fixing things. Just sit. Just sit. I was out the door in 5 minutes. When I arrived, the house was quiet, except for soft music playing somewhere inside. She opened the door wearing leggings and an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. No makeup. No effort. Somehow that made it harder to breathe. Hey, she said softly. Hey, I replied. We did not hug this time. We stood there for a second too long, then she stepped aside and let me in. The living room lights were low. A single lamp glowed in the corner. She sat on the couch, leaving space beside her. I took it. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel her warmth. We talked about nothing at first. Work, a show she was watching, a client who kept changing their mind. The words were normal, but the silence between them felt heavy. You okay? I asked. She nodded, then shook her head. I'm tired, she said. Not just tired like I need sleep. Tired, like I've been holding everything up for a long time. I turned toward her. You don't have to do that right now. She looked at me, eyes shining in the low light. That's why I asked you to come. Quote. That was the first time she admitted it so clearly, that she wanted me there, not for help, not for errands. For her. We sat quietly after that. No rush to fill the space. At some point, she pulled her feet up onto the couch, knees tucked to her chest. I mirrored her without thinking. Our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. Her hand rested on the cushion between us. Mine did too. Inches apart. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. Daniel, she said softly. We should probably talk about what this is. I nodded. Okay. She took a breath. I don't want to hurt Liam. I don't want to cross lines. I can't uncross. I don't either, I said. He's my best friend. She studied my face like she was checking for cracks. And you're young. You should be out living, not sitting on a couch with someone who already raised a kid. I almost laughed, but it came out quiet instead. You make it sound like I'm missing something better. Her mouth curved into a small smile. You might be. I don't feel like I am, I said honestly. Her fingers shifted. They brushed mine. The touch was light, accidental, or maybe not. Neither of us pulled away. That scares me, she whispered. It scares me too, I said, but not enough to stop. She closed her eyes for a second, like she was deciding something. When she opened them, her hand turned slightly, palm up. I took it. Her skin was warm, her fingers curled around mine like they had always belonged there. The moment felt quiet and loud at the same time. "We're not doing anything wrong," she said, more to herself than to me. "We're just sitting," I said. She laughed softly at that. "You're dangerous." "So I've been told," I said, trying to lighten the moment, but the way she was looking at me told me she knew this was not a joke. We sat like that for a long time, holding hands, talking about small things. Her childhood, my first failed job, the kind of life we thought we would have by now. At some point, her head tipped toward my shoulder, just barely touching. I froze, then relaxed when she did not pull back. "Is this okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Is it okay for you?" She nodded. "It feels safe." Quote. That word hit me harder than anything else. When it got late, I stood to leave. She walked me to the door, still holding my hand until the last second. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Any time," I replied, and this time there was no teasing in it. At the door, she hesitated. Then she leaned forward and kissed my cheek. Just once. Soft and quick. "Good night, Daniel," she said. I drove home in silence, my cheek still warm where her lips had been. I knew then there was no pretending anymore. This was not just comfort. This was something that wanted to grow. And I was already in, too deep to walk away. After that night, everything felt more fragile, not weaker, just more careful, like we were holding something that could break if we squeezed too hard. We did not kiss again right away. We did not rush. But the space between us kept shrinking in quieter ways. Longer looks, slower smiles. Messages that ended with good night and started with good morning. I started noticing how she said my name differently now. Softer. Like it carried weight. One afternoon, she texted me while I was working. "Harper, Liam is coming home this weekend." I stared at the message for a long time. Me. "Okay, Harper, I just wanted you to know. Nothing changes. I just didn't want it to feel like a surprise." I appreciated that more than she knew. That Saturday, I stayed away. I told myself it was the right thing to do. Liam and I met up in the city instead. We grabbed beers, talked about work, complained about being tired all the time. He looked the same. Familiar. Easy. At one point, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You've been quiet lately, man. Everything good?" "Yeah," I said. "Just busy." He nodded, not pushing. That was Liam. Trusting. And that made the knot in my stomach tighten. The next evening, after Liam had gone back to the city, my phone buzzed. "Harper, he left an hour ago." I didn't realize how tense I was until now. I typed, deleted, then typed again. "Me. Want company?" Her reply came fast. "Harper, yes." When I arrived, she opened the door and let out a breath like she had been holding it all day. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. The house felt different when Liam had just been there. More lived in, louder, even in the silence. She poured us tea and we sat at the table, fingers wrapped around warm mugs. "I hate that I feel like I have to split myself in pieces," she said. "Mom here, woman here, me somewhere in the middle." "You don't have to be one thing with me," I said. "You can just be you." She looked at me then, really looked. "That's the problem," she said softly. "I like being me with you." She reached across the table and took my hand. This time, there was no hesitation. No pretending it was an accident. Her thumb traced a slow circle on my skin. "I've been lonely for a long time," she said. "I didn't realize how much until you showed up." I squeezed her hand. "You didn't ask for this," I said, "but neither did I. We just met each other where we were." She smiled sadly. "You always make it sound simple." "It doesn't feel simple," I said. "It just feels honest." We moved to the couch. This time she sat close right away, her shoulder pressed into mine. I could feel her breathing slow, matching mine. "Daniel," she said, voice low, "if we do this, really do this, it has to stay between us for now." I nodded. "I understand." "And if at any point it feels wrong," she continued, "we stop." Agreed, I said. She turned toward me, close enough that I could see every small line of her face. The woman who had lived and loved and lost. The woman who had raised my best friend. The woman who had somehow found her way into my heart. "Tell me to stop," she whispered. I did not. Instead, I leaned in slowly, giving her time. Every second felt stretched thin. Her lips met mine softly. Not rushed, not hungry, just careful and full. It felt like a promise more than a kiss. When we pulled back, she rested her forehead against mine. "We crossed it," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said, "we did." She smiled, nervous but real. "I don't regret it." "Neither do I." We stayed like that for a long time, talking, laughing softly, sharing pieces of ourselves that had been quiet for too long. When I left that night, the world felt different. Not easier, just clearer. I knew we were standing on something fragile, and I also knew I was willing to hold it with her. After we kissed, there was no going back to pretending, but we still did not rush. If anything, we slowed down even more, like we were learning how to walk on thin ice without breaking it. We became careful in public. If Liam was around, we kept our distance. Friendly, normal. I hated how natural that act felt and loved how good we were at it. It scared me what that said about us. In private, things were different. Not loud, not reckless, just close. Some nights we sat on the couch, her legs tucked under her, my arm resting behind her back without touching. Other nights she leaned into me, her head on my shoulder, like it was the most natural place in the world. One night, as rain tapped against the windows, she spoke into the quiet. "I'm scared someone will get hurt," she said. I knew she meant Liam. I did not argue. "I know," I said. "I think about it too." She turned her face toward me. "Do you ever wish you hadn't answered that call?" Quote. I thought about it. The basement, the cat, her voice on the phone, the way my life had cracked open. "No," I said, "even when it's hard, I don't wish it away." She nodded slowly. "Neither do I." That was the night she told me more about her marriage, not the dramatic parts, the slow parts, the growing quiet. The way you can be next to someone for years and still feel alone. I told her about my ex. How I hid behind being easy and agreeable. How I never fought for what I wanted because I was afraid of losing it. "You're not doing that now," she said. "No," I said. "I'm not." She smiled at that and reached for my hand. The first time she fell asleep against me, it surprised us both. We were watching an old movie we barely paid attention to. Her breathing slowed, her weight settled into my side. I did not move. I watched the screen without seeing it, afraid that even breathing too loud would break the moment. She looked peaceful, safe. I realized then that this was not about desire. Not really. It was about being chosen. About choosing back. When she woke, she apologized. "I didn't mean to," she said. "I'm glad you did," I replied. She laughed softly and rested her forehead against my shoulder. A few days later, Liam called me. "Hey man," he said, "random question." My stomach tightened. "What's up?" "You've been helping my mom a lot lately," he said. Not accusing, just curious. "Everything okay over there?" I chose my words carefully. "Yeah, she's good. I just like being around." There was a pause. "I appreciate it," he said finally. "I worry about her more than she knows." "I know," I said. "She's strong, but it helps not being alone." "Yeah," he said. "It does." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. That night, I told Harper about the call. I did not hide it. She listened quietly, then reached for my face, holding it gently. "Thank you for being honest," she said, "even when it's scary." "I promised," I said. "Slow." "Honest." She kissed me then, not careful this time, not rushed either, just sure. "I don't know what the future looks like," she said when we pulled apart, "but I know I don't want to lose this." "Then we won't," I said, "not by pretending it doesn't exist." She rested her head against my chest, listening to my heartbeat. "You came just for me," she whispered again, like she was testing the words. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I did." For the first time, she believed it. And for the first time, I believed I was exactly where I was meant to be. The first real test came sooner than I expected. It was a Wednesday evening when Liam showed up unannounced. I was not there. Harper was alone in the kitchen, halfway through cooking dinner, when he walked in with that familiar energy that filled the house. He hugged her, dropped his bag, and started talking about work. Normal. Easy. Then he stopped and looked at her closely. "You okay?" he asked. "You seem lighter." She froze for just a second, not enough for him to notice, but enough for her to feel it. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on her a little longer than usual. That night, she told me about it while we sat on the back porch, the same place where everything had quietly begun. "I hate feeling like I'm hiding," she said, "even if we aren't doing anything wrong." I took her hand. "We won't hide forever," I said. "We just need the right moment." She looked at me, fear and trust mixed together. "And if that moment never comes?" "Then we decide what matters more," I said gently, "living half a life or telling the truth." She was quiet for a long time. A week later, Liam called me and asked if I wanted to grab dinner. Just the two of us. No excuses. No distractions. Halfway through our burgers, he set his drink down and looked straight at me. "I'm going to ask you something," he said. "And I need you to be honest." My heart pounded, but I nodded. "Are you in love with my mom?" The world went very quiet. I could have lied. I could have laughed it off. I could have taken the easy way out. Instead, I told the truth. "Yes," I said. "I am." He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. He did not yell. He did not get angry. That somehow made it harder. "How long?" he asked. "Long enough to know it's real," I said. "And long enough to know I never wanted to hurt you." He stared at the table for a while. Then he sighed. "She's been lonely for a long time," he said quietly. "I see it. I just didn't expect you." "I didn't either," I said, "but I care about her and about you." He looked up at me then. His eyes were tired but clear. "If you hurt her," he said slowly, "I'll never forgive you." "I know," I said, "and I wouldn't expect you to." Another pause. Then he shook his head and let out a short laugh. "Life's weird," he said. "Just don't make me regret trusting you." "I won't," I promised. That night, I went straight to Harper's house. When she opened the door and saw my face, she knew something had changed. "You told him," she said. "I did," I said. She covered her mouth with her hand, eyes filling. "And?" "He didn't walk away," I said. "Neither should we." She stepped into my arms and held me like she had been holding her breath for months, maybe years. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. Weeks passed, slowly, carefully. Our world widened. No more hiding. No more half-truths. Just two people choosing each other openly. One evening, as we sat together watching the sun fade behind the trees, she leaned her head on my shoulder and smiled. "You know," she said, "if that cat hadn't gotten stuck in my basement." "I know," I said. "Everything would be different." She tilted her head up to look at me. "I'm glad it did." "So am I said. "Because sometimes love does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it shows up quietly, scared and stuck, asking for help. And sometimes, when you answer that call, you end up exactly where you were meant to be."